taken the valuable point out of the first panel discussions. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a news for you, and I think it's a good news. So, now we are behind the schedule, so the networking break will be open at a lunchtime, and at that time, each of you will have one more than 1 hour to see your friends and your partners. So, and don't forget take some photo at the photo booth at a lunchtime. And now we move to the last presentation in the morning session of our event today. So, the next speaker will give his keynote presentation on how to create an engaging brand experience. And in the last over 25 years, he has been contributing his knowledge of culture, history, insights, creativity, and strategic planning, as well as implementation experience to successful corporations and brands in Vietnam and the Southeast Asia region. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand together to welcome on the stage Mr. Hoàng Đạo Hiệp, Director of Communication and Marketing Services, Nestle Vietnam. The microphone at that side.
Hello, everyone. I know my part would be very hard because maybe you want to have lunch right now, so the pressure is on. But I'm so delighted to share with you today about the thing that I think this is the thing I wake up every day and go to work, is to create the engaging experience for the brand that I'm working for. So before going into that, we see this is an exclamation about the last year. This is, and hopefully we don't have to say like this when we end this year. The COVID came and changed our life forever. And so it also changed everything in the marketing world. Because the world changed the way we live a year ago, 2 years ago, changed a month ago, and even a week ago, and it is very fast. The need changed, the life changed, and the and how and where we connect also dramatically changed, and it has become increasingly complex to reach out to the consumers out there. It's become more and more difficult to tell a good story, and especially with the confinement and the lockdowns that just happened. But then how do we adapt? How do we still make our brands relevant? How do we create more meaningful? How do we still evoke the emotion in all of these changes? And but then what changed is still, that's hopefully, I think very luckily, that there are still a lot of things never change. So what changes? Nothing. What are the things that never change? The first thing is the foundation. A decent brand always have the foundation that it is really enduring. The promise, the commitment, the purpose of the brand, the promise to the consumer and the customer. Those are the things that never change. The marketing is built on very strong insight that it is supercharged with attention. That things never change as well. It is a deep understanding of the human truth, of the needs and the challenge that our consumer that it is facing every day, and also the tension that our brand is promised to be sold with them. That thing, the power of the insight also never change. And then the big idea, the power of the big ideas also never change. It is that there are big ideas that works and works and works and works for many years. and still forging new engagement, still forging fresh experience when people encountering with them. But then at the same time, everything changed as well in marketing. Never before we have many new technology. You just saw that many new things change. The way that people watching TV change. The way that people consume the social media change. There are many new technology change. There are many new and more exciting way to engage and surprise the consumers. And that all together create the power at the intersection of art and science. And then we have that power in our hand to create a transformational power to be a force for good, to create the positive movement. So now we move into the theater of the brand, where we bring the brand to life by creating the experience. Because we do not just want the consumer to need us, we want the consumer to want us. We want the consumer to engage with us at a very deep emotional level, that by and only by that way that we become indispensable at their life. And then that it is desire. So we need to make our brand desired by the consumers. How come? How to make it desired? This is the this is a theater. The whole concept of us going to a theater and being locked and drawn into that room is because we anticipating something great. It is because we expect to enjoy a story, but not only a story, a compelling story. And then that it is exactly the brand is about. So today I will talk to you about the brand. Does that the brand has a story? And if it has a story, is that compelling enough? And then the framework to create the engagement of those story. We'll talk about the brief that I call it the big ideas brief. And then the details of it, and then the big idea itself. Very simple. To create the engaging brand experience. First, talking about the brand. You see this one, the one on the right-hand side is chocolate. The one on this side is also chocolate, isn't it? The difference is that the one on this side has a compelling story. And then that compelling story making this become so different to all the other chocolate in this whole world. So that's exactly what the brand is. It is a product, a very good product, and then plus a compelling story. And this compelling story is made by sensorial, by experiential, by personal, and also this compelling is also the result of business and equity building as well. And all of this, it creates a very strong emotional bonding that it is convincing the consumer that, oh, you know, like it is a brand that I want. It is a brand that I desire. It is a brand that I love. But then, you know, like we can see it is getting more and more difficult because, you know, we are trying to tell stories, advertisers trying to tell stories, agencies trying to tell stories, the trade trying to tell stories, but the consumers now, they are telling the story of their own. And I have to say, sometimes their story is more engaging than our story. Also, I think also, you know that right now there's a lot of screen. People are following, you know, so many different screen. It is so hard to capture the attention. And then also people expected to be experienced, to experience a brand not only by one dimension, but also by a very different level of engagement. And then it becomes, like a total brand experience. So it is so challenging that Chuck Porter of the agency, Crispin Porter and Boguski, said that all that really matters now is the power of the story. If you are focused on anything else, you are wasting your time and resources. It doesn't mean to say that we should not focus on technology. But then if the technology making us telling a story better, then that's what we do. But then we just don't follow the technology or science, just for the sake of it. It is only to tell our story better. Yeah. So the ultimate question is that does your brand have a compelling story? I'm going to give you an example about a brand with a very compelling story. It is Milo. Milo is the brand. It's the fortified food, tonic food drink, and then it provides the necessary mineral, the the vitamins that the kid need. And then it is iconized by Milon of Croton, a Greek Olympian, that it is quite famous about strength and endurance. So when you drink Milo, it is tasty first. It tastes so good. And then at the same time, it brings you nutrition. It provides you energy. And it accompanies you on the way to be successful in life. Very simple, like that. And all of those pillars just link directly to the ambition of all the moms to the kid. Is that okay? Like the sport will help my kid having the successful in life. Very simple triangle of that. The Milo and the mom and the kid. So that it is the big idea of Milo cannot be more simpler. Yeah, that it is the sport is a great picture. It tells the story of Milo in a very compelling way, and it is a big idea that um, that has been around for the last maybe 10 years, and then based on that big idea, so many different campaigns of Milo was aired, and I know that many of you in here are very familiar with the campaigns of Milo. Let's look at the example, and then you see the latest campaign of Milo that it is based on that big idea. It is a true grit, and it is in Vietnamese is tiếp ý chí để thành công.
Tài năng thì tốt thật, nhưng quan trọng hơn cả là ý chí của con. Tài năng thường được tán thưởng. Wherever you go, get your Milo, get your Milo, get your Milo, get your Milo. Now get your Milo, get your Milo. Còn ý chí giúp con tin tưởng chính mình. Wherever you go, tài năng có thể vượt trên đối thủ. Get your Milo. Ý chí cùng con bền bỉ mỗi ngày. Get your Milo, get your Milo, get your Milo. Và bứt phá giới hạn bản thân. Get your grade up, get your Milo. Tài năng không thích thất bại. Ý chí giúp con từ thất bại bật dậy mạnh mẽ hơn. Milo. Và tài năng dù có hay không, ý chí rèn từ thể thao sẽ cùng con vươn đến thành công.
Thank you. That's a very, very good creative work. That it is a very good co-creation between our Milo brand team and the and the strategic agency, Ho Kin Vĩ. But then behind all of this, to bringing this story to life, there's a framework to create the engagement. And it is at Nestle, we call it the brand building the Nestle way. And it is a version 4.0 of it. Basically, it looked like a house. Yeah, and there are 5 rooms in the house that it is interconnected with each other. The very first room is to know the consumer deeply. Very much know it deeply. Know your consumer deeply. Second one, simple, it is about the brand. It is inspired by the purpose of the brand, and it is guided to the execution by the essence of the brand. The third one is about the portfolio of the brand. It to design a sustainable and innovative portfolio that people love. And then this red room is about what we are talking about today. It is create engaging brand experience through the work of strategy, through the work of creative, through the work of media, and through the work of activation and production. And then the last room is to put everything together to plan and execute flawlessly. Very simple. And the core to the red room of creating a brand experience is the very famous thing of Nestle that we call the BEP, stand for the brand engagement pilot. The first one is about the work of strategy and creative to have the big idea. And then the last one is that to bring that big idea to life by the work of creative to have the campaign idea that is based on the big idea, and then having the integrated media strategy. And then after that, follow up with activation and personalization to that. And we are very mindful of the three things that it is across all of these steps. Is that data power? We are not data driven, we are data power. Yeah, consumer centric and personalized. Then now we're talking about the brief. The brief to the agency, it has to be brief. Yeah, that's why it is called the brief. It is not called the law. Yeah, the first thing it is have to be clear. The brief has to be very clear to the agency. It has to be singular. It has to be decisive. It has to be sharp, and it has to be very focused. Then after that, it has to be aligned. I know that many of you in here would have a smile because, like sometimes, what we want and what we promise to you is that the budget is this big, and then after that, the reality is very small. Yeah, so that it is why it needs to be very, very much aligned. It is aligned about the road ahead of us, how to get to that, how we get to that road, what are the process and what are the output of that. And then the brief have to be inspiring. Remember, the brief that you are writing, the target audience of that brief are the genius mind of the creative people. Yeah? And it has to be inspiring. We can have the brief that it is we put all the data in there. It can be very comprehensive. It can be completed, and it can be even very clear. But then, is it inspiring? Is it inspiring? Because, if it is, in here, it is about creative, and this should be the very first creative breakthrough. And then it has to start with the brief itself. If the thing that it is not clear, if the thing that it is vague and unspecific, and then the creative work that it is answer to the brief will become unspecific and vague as well. And then here, maybe many of you found yourself being one of the type of these clients. I am some type as well. We can look at the one that is check in and hide or keep changing their mind. It is, you can easily see that it is a type of the client who always lật bàn. And then maybe you see the one that it is constant distrusting bad mood. Chị thấy cái này nó không ổn tí nào cả. Chị thấy rằng là nó làm sao, nó sao á. And never tell you why. And then also the one that it is a dictator, that it is directing you guys. Logo bigger. Yeah? Change this to a greenish blue. Use this font type. Yeah? So we are like that from time to time, and we are guilty for that part. Yeah? Then we're talking about the details of the brief. But before that, we have to make sure that we are going on the right direction by having the brand in all the context of it. Really understand the context of it. And then the first item of the brief is about the competitive content and cultural landscape. The brand does not live in a vacuum. The brand lives in a landscape. And then you have to see, okay, what it is a category doing, what it is a competition doing, what are the cultural trends that it is affecting the whole category. And then now we are not only competing with the competitors, we are competing with the content that it is in the landscape. And we have to be very clear about the commercial ambition. We just cannot want everything. What exactly the brand want to achieve. And then we have to define who are we talking to as a person. And then this, the most transformative part of the brief. It is the most difficult, but then it is the most important part. What is the deep truth about the target that will turn the current behavior into the desired behavior? That it is the insight thing. That it is the aha moment. Yeah, that it is the deep understanding of the human truth. And then we have to identify the reason why that this brand exists. And then here I give you a very simple example of the brand purpose. At Nestle, we have a brand that's called Garden Gourmet. And then this Garden Gourmet brand that they believe is that the more people embrace the plant-based food, then the better the world will be. So that Garden Gourmet simply have a conviction to make the world fall in love with all the goodness of plant-based food. Simple. And that it is a big purpose that worth people contributing for. And then sure that you are very familiar with this functional benefit. What I'm talking in here is about the benefit. It is not the ingredients of your brand. We're talking about, okay, what is the ingredient? Ingredient bringing what benefit? And then we're talking about emotional benefit, that it is basically very simple term, is a positive feeling that people have when encountering with the brand. And as you know, it is my favorite slide, is that the reason always lead to conclusion and the emotion lead to action. And people, buy your brand is because of the emotion. Yeah? And then the emotion is the ultimate way to create loyalty beyond reason. Yeah, there are brands that it is exactly like you. There are brands that it is maybe cheaper. Maybe there are brands that it is available just right there. But you still choose this brand. Because what? It is because that it is a loyalty beyond reason. And that only can be built by perpetuating the emotion. And then we see the meaningful product truth. Okay, you talk a lot about your brand, and now you have to prove to us what you will do. And then in a very meaningful way. For example, in here, we have our technology, we have our heritage, we have our ingredients, but that will not be meaningful unless you show to people, okay, what it is, the feeling, what it is, the experience of the bubble or of the taste. And then, if this brand is a person, if this brand is a human being, then what kind of persona it has? Then it comes to the last thing, is that the ownable brand proposition. What it is a single strategic statement that the brand can own to, at the end of the day, convince the consumer that they have to buy our brand, no other substitute. And be very careful in here that this ownable brand proposition, it is still a statement thing. It is still a client agency thing. It is not something that the consumer see it. Yeah, it is strategy. It is the result of strategy, whereby the creativity come the big idea, and then the big idea itself is the creative expression of the own brand proposition. So at the end of the day, you have the insight, and then you have the brand proposition, and then in the middle, you hope to create a magic in here of the big idea. And then when you have a very big idea, that it is big enough, that it is good enough, you can be able to create campaign idea number 1, campaign idea number 2, campaign idea number 3, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that it is a testament of how big the idea should be. I give you an example of that, of the big idea that works and works and works. And then it works on TV, it works on digital, and it works on sampling as well. And I'm giving you an example of doing very simple activation that it is sampling, but carry the big idea. Yeah, the big idea is have a break, have a Kit Kat. Yeah, and from Brazil.
Flying high up in the sky, that's where I wanna be. It is just you and me. Hold my hand above the clouds. Nothing can stop us now. Just let me show you how. Come with me and have a break from things that bring you down. We'll take off and leave it all behind. Flying high up in the sky, that's where we're gonna be. Open your eyes and see, there's a whole world waiting for you and me.
Okay, so just to summarize, that we went through a set of tools. So we have to maximize the tools to create something so compelling, to create something so fantastic, to create something beautiful. And then it should be the clear, aligned way to the star that we want to bring our brands to. And then it should be a documented inspiration. Like everything good, it requires effort. It's a lot of effort, but don't sweat the steps. Because we are going to journey together. Let's be brave. Let's have some fun. Let's build a story. Let's create something big to our brand to be desired at the end of the day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for your sharing. I think it was outstanding. And I'm sure all the information